But Mark, let's move on into our next topic. And what we are looking at is we're kind of taking an early look at the NFC North. And the reason why we're doing this is, like I said in the housekeeping, patreon.com/mostvaluedpodcast, $10 tier. You can be like our good friend Christian. How you doing today, Christian?
I'm doing good. What's going on, everybody?
We are doing great. Talking some NFC North. And I love how you guys can, what I'm saying is join the podcast, talk about what you want to talk about. Christian want to talk about the NFC North. And we've got Kirk Cousins. I was right. Yet again, I get to say I was right again. Going to my Minnesota Vikings. People do. The Bears for both Christian and you, Mark, making some moves, making some deals.
Yep. Quarterback Tyler Bray, something else to be proud of.
Is it Chase? Didn't you guys get Chase Daniels too?
And Chase. The Bears got a lot of quarterbacks right now on this roster.
So you got the Bears making moves. The Packers might have been moving back, get rid of Jordy, but they get Jimmy Graham. They trade Demarius Randall. You've got the Lions. Were they going to get Richard Sherman? No, they didn't. They're kind of, to me, the Lions are a little stagnant right now. They're looking for Jonathan Stewart, not going to get him.
They got the Blunt, though.
They did get LeGarrette Blount. Christian, let's start with you. Early look at the NFC North. I'm going to let you drive us here. Out of all the teams, all the moves that are happening, where do you want to start? What team? Take us through it. NFC North, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking with all the offseason moves that my Chicago Bears have made, I'm thinking we'll start there and how they're, in my opinion, that we have every chance to be a playoff team this season. I'm jumping on the same train that Jordan Howard is, and I'm guaranteeing the playoffs this year for Chicago.
Nice. I like it. It's
really though. Are they really going to make the playoffs this year?
16-0, baby. 18-1, perfect season.
Kirk Cousins is, going to get hurt. So I mean, it's going to be fine.
Don't say that, Christian. Don't say that.
It's going to be great. Here's the thing for the Chicago Bears. They're in this weird territory of they're doing everything they needed to do. They're kind of following the Eagles' blueprint right now of young quarterback. Get all the pieces around him, fix a lot of these things in free agency, and go at the draft again. But the Bears the hard thing for the Bears is they need to just get one of these off seasons knocking it out of the park, which looks like they're doing a good job so far. But because every year there's such a great turnover to where all it takes is Soldier Field to injure a few players. And all of a sudden, the Bears lack depth again.
That's like one of the comments on, you guys should check out the Outcast with Buzz and Juice. They talked about the moves. And one of the comments was we'll just get AstroTurf and we'll be set. Sign that free agent AstroTurf.
Yeah, right.
And we'll be set. With the Bears, I'm kind of, obviously I'm outside looking in because I'm not a Bears fan, though I live in Chicago, so I'm surrounded by Bears fans and Bears talk. The playoff talk, if I'm Bears fans, pump the brakes. I think that if you guys go 7-9 this year, 8-8, phenomenal season. Hang your hat on it. The future looks bright. Anything lower than that, all right, what's going on? What's going wrong? Because Matt Nagy's coming in, new offense. You got hype going up with that. You've got the weapons that you got, the receivers that you're adding, Taylor Gabriel in the slot, Allen Robinson on the outside. This team, to me, I don't think makes the playoffs this year. And the reason being is you've got, to me, the Eagles could still be the defending champions, but also winning their division. Cowboys, I'm not sure how we're going to do this year with them because they were good 2 years ago, not so hot last year, only 9-7. The South will be interesting. Panthers get a wide receiver with Torrey Smith. The Saints look like they're making moves to try to stay at the top of that division. But the NFC West is the one that also throws a wrench into it. The Rams, I think, are going to be challenging for that division. Seahawks and Cardinals might be behind. What are the Niners going to do, though? Could the Niners be vying for a playoff spot? And I just think with the Bears, there's going to be too many cooks in the kitchen fighting for those wild card spots that I would pump the brakes on the Bears making the playoffs just for that fact.
This year, I mean, you can say that most off seasons in the NFC are because the NFC is the stacked division right now.
Yeah, it's not the Patriots and everyone else like the AFC.
Yeah. For the Bears are in this weird spot where I don't think whatever happens matters. this year for the Bears.
So if they go 5-11 again, they
can go 5. Well, they got a new coach. They got all these new weapons. We got to learn the system. No matter what happens, and I mean, Bears fans are not going to be content with that necessarily, but they can be a 4-12 team. They can be an 8-8 team. They can be a 10-6 team. I'm not saying that necessarily these are the things that are going to happen. I'm just saying they can do anything, and it's not really going to matter because this year we're reestablishing again. We're learning a new system. We got Mitch. I mean, sure, he had time last year, a decent amount, but they didn't really let him do anything.
No.
So he's almost essentially in a freshman year still.
And really, they sent out the ginger giraffe as the sacrificial lamb at the beginning of the season.
Right.
To where it's like, yeah, we got you for 2 years, but let's be honest, it's going to be Mitch's job in a couple. Me and you kept playing all right, what week does he take over?
Yeah.
What week is Mitch going to take over? And here's the thing I want to ask, kind of moving a little bit away from the Bears. I think the Bears, though, in this division could be the second best team in this division. I know Lions fans just went, oh, what are you doing? But the Lions fans, they have a new coach coming in. Yeah, they have Matty Stafford. But the reason why I say the Bears could contend for second in the division, the Green Bay Packers. Yes, I know they have Aaron Rodgers, but getting rid of Jordy Nelson, he's now in Oakland, I believe. You also, the whole Randall Cobb situation is interesting to me. Should he stay? Should he go? Are they going to get rid of him? Are they not? They bring in Jimmy Graham, Demarius Randall no longer there. Christian, I want to ask you, what are you thinking about the Packers and all the moves they made? I'm thinking they take a step back, although they've got Aaron Rodgers on that team.
I mean, I'm going to agree with you there. I think they also take a step back. I don't see it being a huge one where they end up, bottom seller, fourth in the division. But they also lost Morgan Burnett today. He was a free agent who I believe just signed elsewhere. Losing Jordy was huge. Aaron Rodgers has also they got rid of his quarterback coach earlier on this offseason, and he already expressed his, unhappiness with that. Signing Jimmy Graham will help, but I don't think they'll have the chemistry or the morale or the pieces to bring it all back together for them.
Right now, the Green Bay Packers are in a weird spot because they've owned the division for decades now. They really have. I mean, with Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, they've pretty much owned it. Now, the hard thing for the Green Bay Packers is it's almost this kind of just established force that's there every year that's starting to deteriorate, and the holes are being exposed, things like that. Other teams are building up these full teams, and the Green Bay Packers are still sitting there, much like Peyton Manning Colts at the end of it, we got a great quarterback. And that's it. I love a guy like having Mo Wilkerson. And I love that addition to their defense. But I sit there and I'm like, the problem for the Packers, you look at their, they do lose some pieces. And they don't have the room to do much besides Jimmy Graham and Wilkerson. And those are great additions. But it's one of those things where it's like, is that enough when you're comparing to complete team over in Minnesota, a young team that's building up in Chicago, and a team that does compete in the Lions as well?
Well, and Christian, I want to ask you this, because this just popped into my head. One thought morphed into another thought. So the thing that I've been thinking about the Packers right now is Aaron Rodgers' contract is coming up. He's got this year, he's got 2019, then he's going to become the highest paid quarterback in the NFL because the Packers would be stupid to lose him, and I don't think they will.
As a player.
As a player, yeah. I think that the Packers, it almost reminds me of what we're seeing going on with Seattle right now. But it's a little different. Where Seattle was, you had this defense, you had a chance to make runs, and you got one Super Bowl? Well, Super Bowl.
Two appearances.
And you lost the one to the Patriots, won the one to the Broncos, where the Packers are almost the same thing, but I would say worse, where you have had what no other team has had. Brett Favre into Aaron Rodgers. And I don't think with what you're doing right now, the trajectory that it looks like, I don't think you win a Super Bowl this year. I don't think you win a Super Bowl next year unless teams like the Vikings get decimated with injuries. I think this team is falling and could be, if you're only getting 2 Super Bowls out of Favre and Rodgers when it's all said and done, you're looking back going, wow, what mistakes did we make? What are you thinking about that, Christian?
Oh, I mean, I'll agree right there with you because both quarterbacks are easily first ballot Hall of Famers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers just being a quarterback. I mean, and all around playing the position of quarterback, he's probably the greatest athlete to play the quarterback on the run, throwing to his left, throwing to his right, anything. But if you have those quarterbacks and you don't get the pieces around them to win like the Patriots do, where it's almost like a 3 out of 4. If you're not a dynasty, then yeah, I feel like if you have 2 first ballot Hall of Fame quarterbacks back to back, then 2 rings, it's nice. Don't get me wrong. Those 2 runs, I believe in 96 and 2010 were nice, but it's not enough almost. And I almost feel bad for Packers fans because I feel like they would almost expect a little bit more.
Am I crazy for thinking this, Mark? I'm going to shoot a question at you.
Mm-hmm.
Packers finished last in the North this year.
Cool.
Am I crazy for thinking that?
I don't necessarily think you're crazy, but I don't think it's going to happen.
You think the Lions will finish last?
Lions are the Bears. I'm not willing to say it's not the Bears.
In your heart, you want it to be the Lions.
Yeah.
That's why I said the Lions.
I'm not willing to say it's not going to be the Bears that are going to still end up in the last. Because, I mean, honestly, this division, you could be last with 6-10. It's not like last is going to be a 2-14 team, most likely, unless Aaron Rodgers gets injured again or something like that. But, I look at this team for the Packers. One last thing I want to say about them, and I almost, for the sake of Packers, and I was just in Packer country. I was in Wisconsin earlier today. And for their sake, I really do hope they just get some fresh air in there. And they are trying to get a little bit of some fresh air right now. They've made 2 splashes in free agency, which is 2 more than they usually would do. But I almost feel like, we always say that about Aaron Rodgers. And not just us, it's people in general will say that. To have Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and only have 2 Super Bowl rings between the two, like that says something about your division. Yeah, that says something about your team, your franchise. But to be fair, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Dan Marino, has
Never
0
got
rings.
One, yeah.
Right.
That's a guy who has 0. Peyton Manning barely got his 2nd ring. And Peyton Manning's lost.
You're talking about the one in Denver?
Yeah, barely got that 2nd ring. And he also lost in the Super Bowl. I mean, your best quarterback of all time, I'm sorry to Montana fans, Tom Brady.
Lost again.
He's lost multiple Super Bowls. So I am all for crapping on the Packers at any time we can. But the one thing I will give the credit for the franchise and the organization is there are some great quarterbacks that haven't won much. Drew Brees, amazing quarterback. How many rings does he have? 1. He's tied with Brett Favre. He's tied with Aaron Rodgers. I love, as long as you take the Packers uniform off of him, I love Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback. He's an amazing quarterback. He should have more rings than he does.
Till he puts that uniform on.
Yeah, then he puts the uniform back and I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. I forgot about you. But no, I do. I don't know. I don't know completely that their trajectory is too far down. It is going down right now, but it's the Packers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers can get them to 7-9, 8-8 all on his own. I never expect this team to be 6 wins or below.
And the team that I'm thinking about now is the Lions, because to me, I'm looking at Spot Rack right now at the free agents that they've signed. You got Devin Kennard, 3-year deal. Nevin Lawson, 2-year deal. Christian Jones on a 2-year deal. Tavon Wilson coming back, 2-year deal. You've got Kenny Wiggins on a 2-year deal. Deshaun Sneed on a 2-year deal. LeGarrette Blunt Force Trauma on a 1-year deal. And
you know
Sneed
what that
was
means?
A 1-year deal. What?
That means a Super Bowl.
That means a Super Bowl? Is that what that means?
Yeah.
And the thing with the Lions, and I know Lions fans, there might have been some of them that checked out already because we've poked a little fun at the Lions right now, but is it concerning, Christian, I'll ask you, should it be concerning to Detroit fans that with Patricia now as the head coach, they haven't made a big splash in free agency and got something where it's like, yes, we are going to make the wild card and compete in the playoffs?
I mean, it would be concerning because I think they also lost Haloti Ngata, their defensive tackle. I believe he also went to Philadelphia. So it is concerning. I mean, if they're just going to, hey, we had some success last year, let's kind of build off that with the pieces we have, but you're not adding to that, and you're losing what you had. So I would be definitely concerned. I believe in their defense, especially at secondary. I really, really like Darius Slay. I think he's a top 5 in the NFL. But I would be concerned if I was a Detroit fan.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you are a little bit concerned, but you think about what's going on. You look at these NFC teams. Mm-hmm. It seems like a lot of defensive players, they want to play in LA. They want to go to the Rams. Mm-hmm. Or you definitely have some people who are signing a few other places, Philadelphia, for example. Teams are wanting to go to these kind of established teams, and there's risk with Matt Patricia. People aren't sure if he's going to, he's a new coach. They're not completely sold on if it's going to work for him or not. And it's one of those things, too, where you sit there and you think about it and you're like, well, the Vikings have this division for at least a couple of years, probably.
Or so we think. Injuries could happen, let's be honest.
Yeah. There's always the Packers that are there. If you're looking at the two coaches, it's an interesting thing in the NFC North with Nagy and Patricia. You look at these two coaches, and, of course, you have an offensive coach and you have a defensive coach, but there's not that same level of excitement from defensive players to go to Patricia as there is for offensive players to go.
Well, because it's an offensive league.
Well, no, I'm not even saying that. It's just, listen to Allen Robinson, who says, I'm going to Chicago because I want to play with Matt Nagy. Nobody is sitting there saying, I'm going to Detroit because I want to play with Matt Patricia.
Or are they saying, I don't want to go to Detroit, period?
I don't necessarily think it's that they don't want to go to Detroit, period, because Detroit's a good team. They're a good team. They've got a great quarterback. They've got good weapons. They've got a solid running back now. What the problem is, I think, for Detroit is the same thing that we've experienced in Chicago many times because we suck at coaches. It's the fact that if you don't have a coach that gets people excited, they don't want to go there.
Like the Rams. Right. The LA connection is one that is interesting that you brought up because not only is the weather nicer in LA compared to Detroit, Sean McVay.
He's an exciting person to be around.
Exactly what you mentioned. He's exciting as a person and can get you hyped up to play for that team. With the Lions, they're a tricky one to me because it's like, you finished second in the division last year, and I want to knock you for that.
They were almost a playoff team.
Almost, but let's be honest. Same thing that people say about us winning the division, I can say for them. Aaron Rodgers was injured, so if Aaron Rodgers wasn't injured, everyone could have been knocked back one.
Sure, but the Detroit Lions were doing well. They controlled their own destiny. They kind of messed it up themselves.
I'm going to ask you, Christian, if you had to give a prediction, I know it's a really early look. Lions, what record are you giving them? What kind of wins do you think the Lions are going to get in 2018?
I could see them going 8-8, 8-8 or a 7-9 team. I think that the pieces that they're adding are good, but they don't have kind of like how you were saying with LA, with everyone wants to go there. I mean, look at Sean McVay. I mean, same thing in San Francisco. Look at Jimmy G. That's a hot destination right now. And Detroit just isn't. And this is Matt Patricia's, I believe, first stint as a head coach. So like how you said, people are just kind of testing the waters. I mean, that's why I think LeGarrette Blount got a 1-year deal, or that's just what he's used to. I mean, it's just, I would say probably 8-8, about a 500 football team, or 7-9, because, of course, the Bears are going to sweep them, obviously, but hopefully anyway.
Well, they're going 16-0, like Mark said.
Yeah, 16-0.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have the GOAT in Trubisky, so we're good. But no, I could see them going 8-8. They are a good football team, and Matt Stafford is no joke at quarterback. He's top 5 also, but yeah, I would see 8-8, 7-9.
All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and then I'm talking about myself. Minnesota Vikings. The only free agent signings, Kirk Cousins, 3-year deal, total of $84 million, all of it guaranteed money. They get Sheldon Richardson, a 1-year deal for a 27-year-old DT on an $8 million 1-year deal. Kai Forbath today coming back, 1-year deal. Only free agent signed by the Vikings. When I ask this, well, Christian and Mark, you guys can decide who wants to go first for it. But with the Vikings, are they going to be Super Bowl champions? I think that's the expectation here. Are they going to be Super Bowl champions with Kirk Cousins as their quarterback?
I'll jump on it, Christian. I think that you're right. The expectation is a Super Bowl because you just got to the NFC title game.
I know, hot take from Ricky, right?
Yeah, and you can always play that game. You're only one game away. Now, of course, there was a lot of things that went wrong for you in that game, but that aside,
one position away.
Yeah, you were
Right.
very close to getting into a Super Bowl. So yeah, the expectation without a doubt is Super Bowl or bust in this case, in my eyes. Do I think that they're a Super Bowl favorite? No, because Carson Wentz didn't play in the playoffs last year. The Eagles with Carson Wentz, that's my Super Bowl favorite.
But the Eagles with Nick Foles was better.
Well, that's true. Nick Foles is a Super Bowl MVP quarterback. He deserves all the respect in the world. But honestly, even the Rams compete for that. If we take the Eagles out of it, the Rams compete.
Just in the NFC.
Yeah.
We're not even touching the
favorite.
Patriots yet.
Exactly. So it is tough. It is a crowded field, but the Vikings should win the NFC North. They should. They should be a double-digit win team. They should probably be a first round bye team. You know, I think if they don't make it into the playoffs, I think it's a disappointment.
What do you think, Christian?
I agree with Mark 100%. I mean, if you guys got all the way up to the NFC Championship game without Dalvin Cook and with Case Keenum, I did the same thing as John Elway, as him being your quarterback, to bring in the big fish and Kirk Cousins, to give him a full year or fully guaranteed contract, and he could have went anywhere. He had obviously wherever he could have went. I mean, he could have took more money and went to Denver, or he could have took the max money and go to New York. But he said he wanted to play for a winning organization and a place that gives him the best chance to win. And if they got to the NFC Championship game with missing those pieces, adding him in and bringing him in with a full guaranteed contract, that's saying this is our missing piece. So the expectation is there. I agree. It's Super Bowl or bust for Minnesota.
Fun fact that I don't know if we mentioned it, but Chicago Bears did match the Green Bay Packers offer on Kyle Fuller.
Yeah, Kyle Fuller is coming back.
Okay, I didn't know if that was mentioned or not. I just saw it come up on the news. But anyways, to go back to the Minnesota Vikings, one thing I think about, though, is the question of will there be any gelling time? Because there's new pieces on the offensive side of the ball, coaching-wise, for Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, with Pat Shurmur now with the Giants.
Exactly, and you got John DeFilippo coming over, working with...
Super Bowl champion coach?
That's right.
Well, not head coach, but coach.
You know, he was there.
Man, you were talking about you wanted him as your head coach.
No, I didn't say I wanted him.
Or did you? I thought you did in that segment.
I liked the idea.
The comment section wanted him as the next
The
head
Chicago
coach.
Bears community kind of wanted him. I liked the idea, but...
You liked... Didn't you like rank better? No,
I would rather have rank better.
That's right.
Because I thought my problem with the whole Philadelphia situation was who was responsible for that success.
That's right.
3 offensive coaches.
Yeah, for the quarterback success.
Who knows? But anyways, there's a lot of new things going on. So there's even the possibility that, Kirk Cousins takes a little bit of a step back this first year, just because it's going to take a little bit to get used to it, and then he can go and be the Kirk Cousins we're used to. I
don't think... Here's what I'm thinking. Yes, I can see a little bit of gelling time, but to me, I'm assuming most of that is going to be figured out in the offseason, to where when we get to the...
You would hope so, but players always complain that they don't have enough time.
But here's what I'm thinking. Yeah, if there's a little gelling, this team, like just roster, barring any huge injuries... has more margin for error than the Redskins did. Like, I'm looking at the record of or the schedule, I should say, from last year of the Redskins. And yeah, you look at it and you go, Ricky, I think they won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. But you look at it. Week 4, Monday night against the Chiefs, 9-point loss. You look at it, they go into, what's another one? The Vikings, 8-point loss. The Saints, that's another one, 3-point loss in overtime. And then you get the Giants, who were an 8-point loss, 1-possession game, and they lose that. Obviously, that game didn't matter because it was week 17. But I think with people, like, the thing that I get upset with and it's because the Vikings are my team and that I bleed purple, and I'm not going to hide that, but the thing I get angry with is when people go, oh, well, is Kirk Cousins really that good? Is he worth the money? Like, he's a B-plus quarterback. And it's like, no, he's not Tom Brady. That's not what I'm saying. But the margin for error with Washington was if he was going to go to the playoffs with Washington, he had to be Tom Brady. because that Washington team was not going to help him out. That defense isn't the defense that he's going to get with Minnesota. Like, you flip those, 4 games? And I play this game all the time, and I'm playing it again. You flip those 4 one possession, the 9-point, technically not a one possession, but I'm going to count it anyways because it's so close. You flip those 4 games, you're an 11-win football team. At least have a better shot. Most likely at 11 wins, you're making the playoffs as an 11-win team. Because of that, with the margin for error in Minnesota being a little higher, they can gel a little bit because Dalvin Cook is coming back from an ACL injury.
Sure.
I know in Minnesota we probably expect ACL injuries are no problem because you drink that Minnesota water and then you have a season like AP did when he came off of his ACL injury.
Going to come back and win MVP.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook, your MVP. Book it right now. But I think that this, of course, Super Bowl is the expectation. But to me, it's going to come down to mostly, like, with the Vikings right now, I hate to say it, but I'm almost in a Golden State Warrior kind of mentality where it's like, let's just get through the regular season so I can get to the playoffs.
I will say the one thing, because you're a fan of storylines.
Yes, I love them.
It would, and I'm not trying to throw this curse on your team. I'm not trying to do it right now, even though it would make me happy as a Chicago Bears fan. It would just feel right, though, if the first quarterback to get a fully guaranteed deal in the NFL
got injured.
just flopped. Just wasn't worth it. Like, it would just be right in the sense of, like, of course we did that, you know, type of a thing. Or, of course, that you give this guy this big deal and then he Matt Flynn's, you know, doesn't even play. I'm not saying he's not going to play. I'm just saying that it wouldn't be worth it.
Well, and, like, that's the thing where, like, they're answering the question or trying to answer the question now of, is this, I'll ask you, Christian, is this the wave of the future? Whereas, let's say Aaron Rodgers, who we talked about a few moments ago, when he gets his new contract in 2020, is it going to be where these, especially quarterbacks, because they're the cream of the crop and you need a good one to win a Super Bowl, is this going to be what we see where it's like, you know what, Aaron, here's all your money right now, fully guaranteed in the NFL?
I mean, it depends. It depends really on kind of how Kirk plays. Kind of, if he doesn't come out and say, well, I mean, there's going to be that buyer beware. Like, well, I mean, look at Minnesota. They gave him a fully guaranteed contract. Didn't work out. Of course, when Aaron Rodgers comes up, I mean, I'm sure everything is going to be different, but this is also going to be the new bar set. And the players are getting smart. They're going to look at a player like Ryan Shazier. Like, I'm going to go out there, bust my tail, and especially quarterbacks, I need that fully guaranteed money. A player who touches the ball on every single offensive snap, they are going to guarantee that. So if a player like Kirk Cousins could get $84 million guaranteed, who's to say that Aaron Rodgers, when he comes up, that he won't get $180 million guaranteed money? I mean, this will have a ripple effect for many years to come.
Here's what we'll do to end it. We're going through just early prediction of, you can give me all 4, or you can just give me who you think wins the division and how many playoff teams there are. Christian, we'll start from you. After the early moves here in free agency, what does your NFC look like here in March?
I think at the end of the season, it'll probably go Minnesota 1. I'm not going to lie. I think with what your guys' defense is and the pieces you're bringing back, you will get probably the first round bye. 2, the wild card dark horse, my Chicago Bears. I'm going to throw them in there. Hopefully like a 10-6, maybe like a week 16 or week 17 win and get in type of game. And then Green Bay, and then I'm going to say Detroit does end up as the 4 seed.
How about you, Mark?
At the bottom of the division.
So I think it's going to be a pretty close division for the most part this year, with one exception. So you don't think Minnesota's
going to run away with it?
No, with one exception. Okay. I definitely think Minnesota's going to probably be like a 12-win team this year.
A little bit. Not as good as last year.
Not as good as last year, because I do think it'll take a game or two that things will have to kind of gel a little bit.
That first game we lose when it's like, we could have won that one at the end of the year.
And there's a good chance it's going to be against Philadelphia, you know. So that's a big match.
That's probably going to be the Thursday night game, I think.
It has to be, right? I mean, that's such a sexy game.
Did they? Because I know Adam Schefter, after the Super Bowl, threw out 3 games. I remember going to Dave and Sean going, yeah, like one of them was Vikings Philly, and I was like, that's it. That's what they're going to do.
I think they announced that's going to be the opening game.
But
I think I
remember,
just saw a headline scrolling through, but I want to say that's it.
Kansas City destroyed New England in that Thursday night game this time, so it's possible you guys could do it.
You're right. Per report, Eagles will play Vikings in 2018 season opener.
So
Perfect.
I do think the Vikings go at the beginning. I'm still gonna say Packers are number 2 in this division. I'm not willing to bump them out too far. Probably like a 9-7 is what I'd go for right now. Just feeling it at the moment. Those are probably the 2 playoff teams. I do think you'll get 2 from the NFC North. And then I would say Chicago Bears and Lions, I think, are both either 7-9 or 6-10 teams. I'm not necessarily sure who's going to be on top and who's going to be on bottom yet.
If you got to commit to one,
if I got to say it right now, I'm going to say the Bears are on the bottom until they prove it to me that they aren't going to be the bottom dweller.
Mark's like, prove it to me before I buy in on this.
I mean, I'm 16-0 all day, baby, but you got to prove it to me.
And Mark, I'm completely, almost in agreement with you, but not completely. Vikings going to win the division. Packers, I think, will come in second. However, I don't think that the Packers will be a playoff team. I think we're only getting one playoff team from the North, and that will be my Vikings. Bears, I'm going to put at third. Lions, I'm going to put in last, but it's going to be, like you said, at 7-9, 6-10, or an 8-8, 7-9, a one-game difference at the end where this is a competitive division. For the wild card, like any team that doesn't win this division, I think it's going to be really hard to make the playoffs because, like I said, in the West, you've got 2 teams. In the South, 3 teams, unless the Falcons or Panthers decide to choke this year and not do anything.
The South is always a big question mark, though.
And then even in the East, I'm not counting out the Cowboys, although they didn't have a great season last year. And with the Giants could do a first to worst if they really wanted to because they've got Eli Manning. They've got talent on that team. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a worst to in the play. Well, almost worse because you can't be worse than a winless Cleveland Browns team. But I wouldn't be surprised if they made the flip. Any last kind of thoughts from either of you before we wrap this segment up?
Christian, anything?
I hope the Bears go after Allen Hurns. That's another free agent that got released by Jacksonville, or they told him he wasn't going to come back. I know Allen Robinson has already kind of recruited him over on Twitter and things, but I hope they go for him.
The Chicago Jaguars, right? You're going to rename it the Chicago, or just, you know what, we can't take the Jaguars, we'll just be the Chicago Cougars, like you can do in Madden. We'll relocate and make them the Chicago Cougars. This is where you guys come in, though. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. What are you thinking about the NFC North? And give us your early prediction for who will be the 1 through 4 in the North this upcoming season.